The Acolyte trailer just revealed that the Sith actually returned a full century before the unveiling of Darth Maul in the Phantom Menace, and we think that Yoda and a corrupt Jedi Order covered it up, inadvertently laying the groundwork for this guy, a Dark Lord of the Sith, to lead the Sith in their conquering of the galaxy. Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and the internet is buzzing right now about how the Acolyte has supposedly broken Star Wars canon. But I'm here to tell you that's a bunch of McClunky, and how the return of the Sith in the final years of the High Republic makes the prequels and the Skywalker saga all the more tragic. And I have an announcement to make. We have brand new Star Wars parody merch at our merch store, like the Hello There, Somehow Palpatine Returned, and Original Trilogy. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support us and support our channel so we can make videos like this one. Thanks for watching. So, the controversy regarding the Sith appearing in a series set 100 years prior to the Phantom Menace stems from this line from Jedi Master Qui-Gon.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Now, we know that Palpatine and his master, Darth Plagueis, were operating for many years prior to the events of the Phantom Menace, and even Darth Plagueis had a master before that called Darth Tenebrous.
Hey, that's figuring Dan, the Moto Nerds.
Yes, Darth Tenebrous was a Bith, but don't let that fool you, he was a Dark Lord of the Sith.
A Bith Lord.
And a little later, I'm going to explain why I think this guy that we saw in the teaser is almost certainly Darth Tenebrous. So, in the Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon's run-in with Darth Maul on Tatooine was supposedly the first Jedi and Sith encounter in 1,000 years. The first documented encounter, that is. In a Darth Maul comic book set before the Phantom Menace, we saw Maul have another duel with another Jedi. Granted, Maul killed that Jedi, and she couldn't inform the Council of the return of the Sith, so canon was still safe and sound. But in the Acolyte trailer, it would appear that many Jedi are aware of the Sith's return. Here we see a group of Jedi going toe-to-toe with a Force user wielding a crimson blade. Now, of course, it's possible that all these Jedi are slaughtered by the Sith and the Jedi Council is never informed of the Sith's return, meaning that their return is never documented in the Jedi archives. And just remember, if it isn't in the Jedi records,
It does not exist. Person, I'm hungry.
well, what do you want for lunch?
Oh, I don't know, like, oh yeah, okay, maybe a chicken wing that someone threw on the sidewalk?
No.
Okay, then, well, what?
That's okay, buddy. You can have some of your Sundays for dogs. Now, as cool as it would be to see the Sith slaughter every single Jedi that crosses their path, and have that be the explanation for why the Council didn't know about them, I think there could be another reason. Hubris.
Legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris.
I think we'll see a lot of the Jedi get killed in the Acolyte series, but I don't think that every single Jedi who encounters the Sith will be killed. I think there will be survivors, and those survivors will cover up the return of the Sith.
Person, that food was delicious.
Well, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you liked it. That food was actually called Sundays for Dogs. They're the sponsor of this video. You see, I love Doug, and I want to make sure that he stays healthy so we can keep him around for a long time. Like, we used to make his food, but homemade food is so hard to store. But Sundays for Dogs is both healthy and easy to store. Plus, unlike other fresh dog foods, it doesn't need to be refrigerated because of their air drying process. You just store, pour, and serve. Sundays contains 90% meat, 10% vegetables, and 0% synthetic nutrients. And the company was co-founded by Dr. Tori Waxman, a veterinarian. After switching to Sundays, we've noticed fresher breath, better poops, and more energy.
You keep track of my poops?
And every order ships right to your door, so you don't have to worry about running out. So, if you click our link below, you get 50% off your first order or use this code at checkout. Thanks again to Sundays for Dogs for sponsoring us. Now, back to what I was saying. Now, come the end of the Acolyte, I think we'll see the Sith defeated, but only after having killed many, many Jedi. And perhaps to defeat the Sith, we'll see the Jedi do some not-so-Jedi-like things that they aren't very proud of and don't want to put in the official Jedi record. The Jedi won't like it being known that there is a power out there capable of slaughtering their order. They'll want to maintain the illusion that no one can best a Jedi in combat, and they'll also want to maintain the image of keepers of the peace and not soldiers.
We're keepers of the peace, not soldiers.
We could see Jedi like Yoda ashamed of the actions that were taken to destroy the Sith, and other Jedi Masters who don't want it known that their power could be rivaled, and that could be when the decision was made by the Council to cover up the return of the Sith. And a century later, Yoda, Yaddle, and maybe even Plo Koon would be some of the only Jedi that would still be alive and have knowledge that the Sith had returned, and that the claim that they had been extinct for 1,000 years was actually a lie.
What?
In a little bit, we're going to take a look at scenes in both the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones that could serve as evidence that Yoda was involved in this cover-up. But before we get into that, let's do a super quick refresher on when the Acolyte is taking place and where Yoda and characters like Darth Plagueis fit into this High Republic timeline. The High Republic era took place from 500 BBY to 100 BBY, BBY being before the Battle of Yavin and the destruction of the first Death Star. This was a golden age for the Republic with innovation, exploration, and overall peace and prosperity throughout the galaxy. This was also one of the most prosperous eras for the Jedi Order. Now, the Acolyte is is taking place right at the end of this High Republic era, about 100 years before the Phantom Menace, which takes place in 32 BBY. So the events of the Acolyte would roughly be around 132 BBY, meaning that Master Yoda would be at the ripe young age of 764 during the events of the Acolyte. During the High Republic era, we saw Yoda play a crucial role in the takedown of the Path to the Open Hand cult. This is a group of anti-Jedi extremists who believe that using the Force should be forbidden because it disrupts the balance of the galaxy. Our friend Adam Lance Garcia even theorized in our Acolyte Talkback video that he thinks these characters could be involved with that very cult. Now, I tell you all this to set the stage for how Yoda would play into this series. So, in The Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon reveals to the Council that he believes his attacker was a Sith Lord, Ki-Adi-Mundi says,
The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
and you'll notice that when Mundi says this, he looks to Yoda, almost as if he's seeking confirmation from his Grand Master. But you'll notice Yoda doesn't look back at him, almost as if he's feeling guilty for having lied to his old Padawan about the truth of the Sith. We also went back and checked the original version of the Phantom Menace with Puppet Yoda, and in that version of well, Yoda does not look over at Mundi. And right before Mace Windu chimes in, there's this shot of Yoda looking very troubled, almost as if he's thinking back to the events of the Acolyte, thinking back to the dark secret that he has helped hide for all these years. It's also possible that Mace Windu, as the second ranking member on the Jedi Council, was in on this cover-up. He's very quick to shut down Qui-Gon's claim of encountering a Sith.
I do not believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing.
And then when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan leave, we see Yoda and Mace look at each other like maybe they know something that everyone else doesn't.
But why would Yoda cover up the return of the Sith?
Well, buddy, cover-ups were actually pretty common amongst the Jedi Order. There were plenty of things that the Council kept secret from other Jedi as well as from the Republic and the Senate. Take Attack of the Clones, for example. In this scene, Mace Windu says that he feels like they should inform the Senate of their inability to use the Force, to which Yoda says,
Only the Dark Lord of the Sith knows of our weakness. If informed the Senate is, multiply, our adversaries will.
This line is key to understanding the same mentality that Yoda likely would have had regarding the existence of the Sith. The Jedi Order was the ultimate power in the galaxy. No one dared even cross a Jedi Knight. Even a young slave in the Outer Rim believed.
No one can kill a Jedi.
This was an appearance that the Jedi Order wanted to maintain. It was the Jedi's hubris and arrogance that led to their downfall in the prequel era, but I think that match was lit far before The Phantom Menace. Like we mentioned earlier, the Sith had been plotting their return in secret for a long time before The Phantom Menace. Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis, would have been alive during the events of the Acolyte. Plagueis was 115 years old in 32 BBY when Palpatine killed him in his sleep.
Ironic.
Meaning that in the Acolyte, he'd be about 15 years old. So I think it is very likely that we will see him appear in this series. Hell, maybe he is the actual Acolyte. In this shot on what we believe is the planet Acto, the home planet of the first Jedi Temple, which we saw in The Last Jedi, we can see someone standing on the rocks looking over the ocean. As we teased earlier, we think this is Plagueis' master, Darth Tenebrous. Our own Colton Ogburn, the writer of this video, pointed out that if you look closely, you could see the man turning his head as the camera pans up. And if you watch it frame by frame, you can see what looks like a high collar behind his head. Darth Tenebrous has this same high collar and black robes. And this series is taking place during the same time that Darth Tenebrous would have been an active Sith Lord. It's also important to point out that in Legends, Darth Tenebrous violated the rule of two by having multiple apprentices. So perhaps we'll see both Plagueis and May vying to become Tenebrous' first true Sith apprentice. And this all connects back to this series being the first steps in the downfall of the Jedi Order and the Republic. We think that Tenebrous emerges and sends assassins to kill Jedi to prove themselves worthy of being chosen as his apprentice. The Jedi are able to defeat the Sith, aka send them back into hiding, and the Jedi's cover-up of these events will result in Darth Tenebrous being able to train his new apprentice, Darth Plagueis, in the Shadows, a shadow cast by the Jedi Order's own hubris. Plagueis would then go on to become the Master of Palpatine, the same Sith Lord who would bring down the Jedi Order, the Republic, and exact the long-awaited revenge of the Sith.
He said it! He said it!
Now, I also want to talk about the heavy presence of yellow lightsabers in this teaser trailer and in the High Republic era in general. These yellow lightsabers' sudden disappearances between the Acolyte and the prequels could be tied to this big Sith cover-up. The color of a lightsaber tells us something about the Jedi wielding it. Yellow sabers were meant to symbolize knowledge and how the Jedi who wielded yellow sabers were notorious for studying the secrets of the Force. Understanding all aspects of the Force means not only understanding the light side, but the dark side as well. So, could it be that the Jedi wielding these yellow sabers were easily tempted by this new emergence of the Sith? These Jedi would have fallen victim to their own desires and joined the Sith, or perhaps they just refused to play along with the cover-up, resulting in them being banished from the Jedi Order and perhaps even killed. We heard lines in this trailer about it not being about good or bad, but power. And the presence of Acto visually drives home the theme of yin and yang and darkness and light, as well as the origins of the Jedi and the Sith, something we think the Acolyte is going to address. In The Last Jedi, in the Acto Temple, we see this symbol of the Prime Jedi. In the books, The Art of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, Seth Engstrom said, quote, "This is a symbol of the first Jedi or Jedi Prime. The center, yellowish rocks represent the energy of a lightsaber, splitting off into two directions, the dark and the light side of the Force. The black rocks symbolize the energy of the Force, everything in between, binding our universe together." Did you catch that? The yellow rocks represent the energy of a lightsaber, splitting off in two directions, the dark side and the light. I think Star Wars is trying to tell us something through the visual imagery of yellow lightsabers and the disbandment of the binary view of the Force. In The Rise of Skywalker, we see Rey's new lightsaber have a yellow blade, and we know that Rey is embarking on a mission to rebuild the Jedi Order and embrace its original teachings, not the teachings of the post-High Republic order that led to their downfall. Rey is a prime example of a character who has successfully teetered on that tightrope that exists between the dark side and the light, and she could be the key to restoring the Jedi Order to its highest levels since the High Republic. We've also got Asajj Ventress returning in the Bad Batch, wielding a yellow saber. She's not a Sith or a Jedi, but instead she's something more. And hey, it's probably nothing, but it's still worth mentioning that Darth Tenebrous and the Prime Jedi look a lot alike. High collar, big head, just saying. So, to loop back around to how the Sith cover-up connects to yellow sabers not being in the prequels, I think it could be because the mentality of a Jedi who would wield a yellow saber was forbidden. That mentality, or way of thinking about the Force, was stomped out in the training process, making it to where no Jedi's Kyber crystal took on a yellow color. Remember, Kyber crystals have no color until they bond with their Jedi. This forbiddance of yellow sabers could be part of the big cover-up of the Sith's return. It could also be tied to the Jedi Order's refusal in the prequel era to teach or rarely even mention aspects of the dark side of the Force. Also, we know that the Jedi and the High Republic have already engaged in at least one cover-up. The Path of the Open Hand unleashed a monster called the Leveler that feeds off people who use the Force. Now, the Jedi encountered this monster at about 400 BBY, but 150 years later, when the Jedi encountered the Leveler again, they have no idea what it is. So again, this makes it seem like the Jedi covered up their weaknesses, even from members of their own order.
It's no hassle. But all I'm saying, they're gonna get a...
But why would the Council cover up from their own Jedi?
Simple. The events of the Acolyte might show some Jedi falling to the dark side, becoming apprentices of Darth Tenebrous. So the Council would start guarding their secrets in case any other members of their order fell under the sway of the Sith. And there's one more huge clue that some Jedi at least still believed that the Sith existed. The prophecy.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
When Anakin is found, Qui-Gon Jinn is certain that he will bring balance to the Force by destroying the Sith. So why would the Jedi have a prophecy about bringing balance to the Force if they thought the Force was already in balance? Simple. They knew the Sith were still around and they kept it a secret. And Yoda damn well knew about it.
Yes.
So guys, let us know, was Yoda part of a massive cover-up or Return of the Sith prior to the Phantom Menace, or was Yoda also kept in the dark about the presence of the Sith? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, or at me or the writer of this video, Colton Ogburn, on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.